Thanks for checking out Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. Here are your hosts, Andrew Hofer and Tom Sigel.
Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. We have our second episode, and we're excited for a great guest today, along with Andrew Hofer, our area director here in Three Rivers. I'm Tom Sigel, a field ambassador. And Andrew, so far with our first start to the new endeavor here, we've been able to reach out and start to get a little bit of audience. So we're excited for our second episode.
Yeah, we're definitely amateurs, but appreciate all the support that we've gotten so far in the first week. I know we've had a lot of different people reach out, but the goal is that we're taking this and using it as another way to communicate to our coaches, communicate to our communities, and just to be able to share the gospel through this form of media.
Yeah, and we hope that this reaches anybody. A coach, just a fan, and athletes as well. And I think that a number of our guests will be coaches because that's what kind of got the ball rolling in this outlet to reach out and share the gospel and with FCA. We also have on our potential guest list a number of athletes as well. And so we think that there's a lot of areas that we're going to reach out to. Today's guest is somebody that I've really gotten to know through the Coaches Huddle that we've done on Thursday mornings at 6:30 for a number of years. We've had different locations, and now with Zoom, we've had coaches get on. But our guest today, he and I have probably been going to this for over 20 years, two of the originals, I guess. And so he's got a lot of great insight as far as coaches and the impact that coaches can have.
Yeah, we talked about it in the first episode that we think coaches are some of the most influential people on the earth here. And they are around our kids so much. They're able to pour into them in ways that even most parents don't have that opportunity to do so, just because the kids are around their coaches so much these days. And so, talking about that legacy that coaches leave and how they really pour into their kids and the impact that they make, because a coach is going to make an impact somehow, whether that's a positive impact or negative impact, whatever that might look like, they're going to make an impact. So coaches are so influential in our society, and something that I think we need to value more.
Yes. And so after a quick break here, we will have on Jim Sanders, who has had a great impact with his involvement in coaching. He's actually been a basketball official for a number of years, and also his license plates are UT-FCA. So obviously a great history and legacy with FCA as well. So we're excited to have Jim Sanders on this morning. We're back with our guest this week, or this episode, and we appreciate him making the trip over, is Jim Sanders, longtime coach and somebody I can call a friend now through our time in the FCA Coaches Huddle. So welcome, Coach. We're excited to have you.
Thank you. I tuned in last week and enjoyed the banter you guys had back and forth with Dan, and so appreciate the invitation and look forward to the time we have to spend together.
Yeah, and no pressure that you have a TV personality.
Yeah, I was going to say you started out at the top, and we're moving steadily downhill from there. Sure,
well, I think Jim's just as good as a TV personality.
Yeah. Well, the pressure was on us, so we had to go on screen with Dan.
Yep.
And that's what my wife said during the intro, that you have a nice professional voice on it, and we start out that way, and then you have to come to the two of us. So, Coach, if for anybody not aware, I think the one thing that you've brought to us on Thursday mornings and have brought to the students you've impacted through FCA and that you've coached is your background. So I think that we're pretty familiar with it, but can you explain and share your experiences in sports through coaching and officiating as well that would be a good background for everybody?
Very good. Well, thank you for that. Well, my career started out as a halfway decent basketball player and not a super football player. And my career morphed immediately into football and wrestling. So that was an interesting start at Peoria Spalding, which now is Peoria Notre Dame. So I had 5 years there, moved out to Eureka, Illinois, Eureka High School, and spent 6 years there as the head football coach. And on to Kewanee, where we spent a couple of years in Kewanee, and then moved over to United Township High School, where I was the head football coach for 11 years and taught for 23 years there, retiring in 2001. Basketball officiating. As a basketball coach, I thought I saw things that most officials didn't see from my bench seat. So I decided I was going to go out there and give that a shot. And I had a wonderful experience officiating basketball as well. So a busy schedule, but always involved with the variety of sports along the way.
And I think some of your memories that I've heard you share, there's been a number from the officiating standpoint, but also from the coaching. Any of the things that kind of stand out, or maybe it's more a category of memories that you.
Well, I think we just celebrated. As a matter of fact, within the last 2 weeks, we had a reunion of the 1975 Eureka High School football team. They played in the semifinals of the second year of the playoffs. We had 23 of the guys back. I was kidding you guys the other day. I said I don't know what I expected, but a bunch of old guys showed up. They're all 67 years old,
and you still call them kids.
They're our boys.
Yeah,
they're going to be our boys forever.
Yeah.
And then just yesterday, they got a group of guys from Spalding. Now those guys are in the mid 70s now, and they've stayed together by Zoom. And so I was involved with guys from Florida and the Carolinas, and one from Pennsylvania, a couple from Peoria yesterday on a Zoom call. So I think part of it, as we look back year after year after year, is the memories and the friendships you create, and a lot of those don't go away.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're kind of talking about there, it kind of leads us into our topic of discussion today, which is legacy. And when you still have athletes reaching out to you years later, that says something, right? We talked about in the opening how coaches are going to make an impact, whether it be positive or negative. Coaches are going to make an impact. Talk to us about, like, when you were coaching, did you ever, like, what was your why when you began coaching?
My wife at the very beginning, I think, was I had a mentor, Merv Haycock, and he was a strict fundamentalist as far as coaching, and so he planted some seeds in me that I was able to, I think, carry forth along the way. I just felt relationships. My why was staying with the young people and maintaining relationships with them, and looked at them way more than just a football player or a basketball player or whatever else. So maybe my why was just the idea of maintaining. I never thought it would last this long, obviously, visiting with people of the age of the guys we've talked about already, but just trying to maintain contacts. We've had kids that over the years, and you guys I'm sure have too, that problems at home and things like that, and they end up spending a night or two or four at our house along the way. So I think relationships had a lot to do with it. I'd be lying if I didn't say winning had a lot more influence on it than the losing part of it. But what I like to do, and especially like reunions we just had, was stories the kids tell. Mm-hmm. And how you remember them and how they remember them. Sometimes they're exactly the same, and sometimes they're not quite the same. But I think your why is pointed out to you by the relationships you continue through the years.
Yeah, and I think that Andrew and I, we've obviously talked about it in our coaches huddle, but the winning part, and especially in some seasons, some situations, some schools and communities, that pressure to win really brings that to the forefront. And I've never been a good loser, so sometimes I've gotten wrapped up in that as well. But when you talk about those stories and hearing what the players think, and Jim and I have joked about this during our Thursday morning huddles, that we've been around so long, we've heard each other's stories multiple times that we keep bringing up for any of the new coaches. But the one that I know, and Dave Rath enjoys it too, is having the teams over, I believe, on like Thursday nights to the house. Well, I think it was at UT, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
those memories, you talk about them telling stories. You want to just share that experience?
Well, the one story that we'd always have the varsity team into our house. My wife, Joanne, would make popcorn for the kids. Our own kids would sit on the steps of the basement and kind of watch these kids. The FCA poster that shows the little boy with the football and the team gathered around the coach. Our kids experienced that firsthand. But we'd bring the kids in on Thursday nights, and years and years later, one of the guys, I was at a retreat weekend, and I heard him, he got telling a story about how, we'd go to coach's house and we'd watch the film, and then we'd pray after the meetings. And I always felt that was one of the very most important parts of it. The prayer.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, I don't think we ever did pray at that point in time after these gatherings, but the kids saw something that stuck with him that was different than maybe what actually happened. But there were great moments there. Don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty sure we didn't end with a prayer.
But he remembered that.
Yeah.
And you didn't correct him at that point,
Absolutely
right? No,
not.
Hallelujah.
That's right. Praise God.
So, Coach, in our opening, we talked about how what your license plate says. What's your license plate say?
My license plate is UT-FCA 2. So
right.
We've carried that out. It was UT-FCA 1, which was before we were leasing cars. So then that plate belonged basically to the dealership, I guess. So, but it fits better because my wife Joanne and I we're a team on this FCA thing. So it's much better UT-FCA 2 right now.
Yeah. So you were involved with United Townships FCA for a long time, and tell me a little bit about that and why you got involved and how that influenced not only the athletes around you but yourself and your wife.
Oh, it's tremendous! Our whole family, several of our kids were of the high school age when we got involved. We got involved in 1988. I tell the story, and they've heard it a dozen times too, that I'd go to the Illinois Football Coaches Association clinic down in Champaign year after year after year, and FCA always had a breakfast on the Saturday morning or Sunday morning, and I would go to it religiously, and the speakers, the college guys, and the high school coaches and athletes, and I'm convinced that FCA is something we needed to bring to UT at the time, and seemed like on my way home, somewhere between Peoria and Galesburg, I threw that idea out the window and just kept on going. And now I'm not saying that the devil lives somewhere between Peoria and Galesburg, but that's where I seem to meet him every time. And so 1988, after some discussion, Joanne and I said, let's just do this. And Jim Unrath was the athletic director at UT at the time. And he supported that, sent a couple of our kids off to camps, leadership camp that first summer. And we started with 8 kids. I claim 8 on an evening meeting, but I think 4 of them were actually going to a student council meeting, but we drug them into the cafeteria and we counted them as in our 8. But it grew beautifully. We had a lot of our teachers were involved with it at the time, other coaches involved, and our group grew to a pretty good group of 115 or 120 kids coming on Wednesday mornings.
Wow.
Yeah, and as you guys got that group started, tell me about the impact that you saw on the kids in the school and maybe in their teams, since you were firsthand able to see that, through coaching the football team.
That's a good, really, really good question, Andrew, because I haven't other faculty members there. The kids had friendly faces, familiar faces as they went to PE or went to math class or a science class or something. That certainly helped. It became very, very thing to do, and we got some criticism for that because that's just the thing to do. I'm going, well, if you're going to pick a thing to do, that's a pretty good thing to do. But it was one of the yearbooks, and I can't remember what year it was, probably in the early 90s. One of the yearbooks asked several questions of the student body, kind of surveys, and they asked, what's the most popular, influential, not popular, most influential group in our school. And the sponsor of the yearbook came up to me and she said, "Did you see that page in the yearbook?" And I hadn't at the time. And she says, "Well, UT is, she says, well, your FCA group was selected as the number one most influential group in our school." I said, "Well, other than a football program, FCA had more kids, so it just made sense." And she says, "Coach, you don't understand." She said, in that poll, there are over 400 kids that listed FCA uh, as the most influential group in our school. So there are a large number of kids who never made it through that door that had an opportunity to experience something. Something's going on, and even though they weren't a part of it necessarily, it influenced them in some way.
And some of those kids must have been good witnesses for it and set an example if they were having that impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that could show the example of a strong huddle within a school can change a school, right? It can change a community, and you're sending out and you're equipping kids and you're sending them out to their teams, to their groups, to their spheres of influence. And then they're going out and making a difference. And people see that, they see the light of Christ shining through them, and it's different, right?
No, absolutely. And it's carried on, you plant seeds and you hope they grow, and from that group, I know several of them went into education, and I know at least 3 or 4 of them are running huddles in their schools, whether it's a middle school or whether it's a high school. They're doing that, so they're carrying their experience at UT over into a totally different environment. So we're so proud of the kids for doing that, because especially the young teachers, taking a stand. By the time we got involved with FCA, I was within 16, 18 years of retirement. So it wasn't quite as traumatic as it might be for a second or third year teacher walking into an office and say, "Hey, I'd like to start an FCA huddle here."
Yeah. So what do you, with experiences or other situations you've heard of as resistance? I mean, it doesn't sound like you fought any of that, but I think there's stories out there of, especially in this day and age, of, you got to get approval and this, you got the separation of certain state and or church and state. So,
a couple of things that came along the way. We had we were going really good with the FCA group, and I think it was 1991 that Joanne and I received a letter at home without a return address. Now, most coaches, or even anybody else that doesn't, you get something that doesn't have a return address, you generally don't open it, but we did.
I think we all do, don't we?
Oh yeah, you can't help it.
Yeah, then it turned to the emails.
Well, nowadays it's too fast for me. But the letter indicated that addressed it to the sweethearts of United Township High School. And it went on and on and on about neither one of you, one's a PE teacher and the other's a hall monitor, and don't think you can control the whole aspects of our school. You can talk to the kids on the weekends. I've read this letter several times.
Yeah.
You can talk to the kids on the weekend. You can promote this, you can promote that. But, you just remember that you work at United Township High School and not I think it was the Sanders Religious Academy.
Oh.
So that shook us to the core. And I tell you, there were tears shed. There was a moment where, should we continue doing this? And then all of a sudden we're going, you know what? We're reaching people.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get people upset like that, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And so we took as that and put that letter away and didn't tear it up. I know exactly where it's at right now, but we've used that as a stimulus to continue working not only through FCA, and more boldly, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But we had great success. Like I said, Jim Unrath was our athletic director. He supported it. Gordy Cornelius was our principal. Craig Whitlock was the superintendent. They backed us all the way. And they said we'll fight your fight if it ever comes to that. Right. So that helped us, and I know doesn't happen in every school like that.
Well, I want to thank you and Joanne for continuing to be bold and pushing forward in that, because I've unfortunately I've never read anywhere in the Bible where they say, like, if you're acting boldly in your faith, it's going to be easy. I've never read that, and when you're trying to pour into kids, there's always going to be some sort of opposition, and so to be able to fight through that, battle through that, and just lean on God through that, and be persistent that's commendable. So I appreciate you guys taking that on, even when it was difficult.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I know Andrew being a part once we went Zoom and stuff, and you came on board in FCA. What the last 3 or 4 years you've been participating and coming to the FCA coaches huddle on Thursday mornings. And I know you've mentioned a number of times, and a lot of coaches and even myself, like, boy, wish I had these opportunities when I started out. I was in my 20s, and the screw ups I made and the way I acted and those type of things. When you talk about Andrew legacy and our why, being able to share that. And I think that, Jim, one thing that, again, I don't know if there's a story behind it, but your perspective of being a coach and being a Christian, maybe it is a story, I think, now that I think about it. And I think that you said you came to that realization, I think it was at UT.
Right.
If you could share that, I think that was something that, again, hearing that when I was starting out would have been, because it still was impactful to me when you did share that.
Well, the story goes is that I went on a retreat. I think it was a Teens Encounter Christ weekend here in the Quad Cities. When I went on that retreat, they give you a cross to wear, and so I went back and we were starting FCA just about the same time, and being bold with that, I wore that cross on the outside of my shirt, and one of our other PE teachers stopped me in the hallway, and he saw it and he said, "Well, that's pretty cool. Why'd you get that?" So I explained to him, and he says, "Well, I'll tell you one thing." He says, "Coach," he says, I know that you're a good PE teacher, an excellent football coach, but I never knew that you were a Christian. And if you don't stop and take a step back when somebody says that to you, you go, okay, now those things are way too separated. My life was more of a private spirituality at the time, going to church all the time, my kids doing those kinds of things. But I was a Christian and a coach. And from that moment on, I said, that's not going to happen again. People are going to know that I'm a Christian and I'm a coach, and just got to kind of live with that, whatever that might be. So I thanked him numerous times for that, because it was something that clears your mind real quick, and you go, okay, I'm on fire because I just finished the retreat.
Yeah.
But I need to continue to wear this cross on the outside. I need to continue, and that's when FCA kind of got the spark. That trip from Peoria and Galesburg wasn't nearly as effective that April as it was other times.
We won't bring up any communities in that area. We're not suggesting anything.
No, heavens no.
So, Coach, my last question for you here is, if you were to give advice to younger coaches, and especially younger coaches who are believers, what advice would you give them in handling the coaching side of things today, and then in handling the coaching with your faith, like intermixing that and letting your faith be a part of that coaching journey?
I think my answer to that is simply, that needs to be who you are. You can't be a phony. A lot of young coaches, I picked this up a lot from officiating basketball, especially basketball coaches. For a long time there, the whole crew came out and they were either Digger Phelps or they were Bobby Knight or they were one of these, and that's how they lived their coaching life. They were copying somebody else. I think we all realize that who we are ends up being a product of who we're around along the way. But I think for young coaches, be bold, don't be afraid. Just by your life, let them know that you are a Christian, that you are a positive role model to the kids. Whether you join an FCA group or you start an FCA group, they'll see it. The Eureka guys that just 2 weeks ago, 50 years ago, they're talking about a spirituality that we had on that team. One of the kids has kept his playbook from the day back in the day, and on the first page of that playbook listed, we're going to do triple practices, we're going to do this and that, and I posted a Lou Holtz prayer. It's the beginning of a new day. I want to use it for good and not bad. That whole prayer was page 1 of our football playbook in 1975. In some communities that might have been taken way different than it was there, but coming out of the Catholic schools in Peoria as a coach and a teacher, I felt, empowered to carry that with me wherever we went. And so that's kind of been a part of it. So, there's got to be yourself, uh, and, uh, and people will see it in you.
So, I mean, Andrew, maybe you're the same way. I guess I would hope that, when you say be bold, it doesn't mean that you're pushing it on kids. I mean, I think but I hope that, we did a moment of silence before games. So it wasn't a prayer. So we were, and I hope that even through times I messed up and didn't react to officiating or whatever the way I should, or losses, that our guys maybe saw something. Andrew, I would guess the same way that your players saw something in you. I go back to your story about they were convinced you prayed at those things at your house on Thursdays, even then they didn't. So I think that, for young coaches too,
Well, and
to live it out.
I think you want your players, like they're not always going to understand why, but you want your players to know, hey, coach is different. Mm-hmm. And again, they might not understand why, but they see something different that they don't normally see in their lives. And because of that, I think that opens up new opportunities and more opportunities to make a positive impact with them and be able to pour into them.
I agree.
Yeah. Andrew, anything as we close?
Just appreciative that you were able to take the time with us, Coach, and thank you for the legacy that you left with your athletes and definitely at United Township. And I periodically I'll run into someone and say, "Yeah, do you know Jim Sanders? He was our FCA leader at United Township." So that legacy is still out there in the Quad Cities. So you guys made an impact. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, Coach, anything that you'd like to share as we close?
Well, I just want to point out how valuable the coaches huddle on Thursday morning has been in my life. Most of it has taken place after I've retired from actually coaching, but it certainly helped my spiritual life along the way to have a chance to share stories with. And I think, COVID was tough on everybody, but COVID was saved, I think, our coaches huddle, because we were able to go on Zoom, and then now we meet in person. A few of us can do that. Others are meeting from here, there, and everywhere. We got guys from Pontiac and Geneseo, and when some of us traveled to Florida, Coach Johnson from Geneseo and myself spent a little time in Florida. You go Zoom and you're right there. Nothing changes. So I would recommend, giving that a try. Put it on Zoom if you can't make it in for breakfast.
Yeah. Erie.
Yep.
Princeton, Bureau Valley area. And like you said, we get people when they're on vacation in Wisconsin, different places. It's been allowed us to grow. So, no, we appreciate having Coach Jim Sanders on this episode of Inside the Huddle. And Three Rivers FCA has a number of great opportunities for people to be involved, and we'll touch on those in just a minute. But at this time, thank you again, Coach, and look forward to seeing you at the next Coaches Huddle.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Well, that was a fun interview, and one of the things that I appreciate Coach talking about is his why. And so, Tom, I wanted to bring that up with you because I know that you and I have talked about how our why kind of changed and evolved the longer that we coach. So I know that early on in my career, that obviously you get into coaching and education because you want to impact kids. But the why, when it came to that, winning ranked way too high. It was probably number one. And I know that as I got older and became more veteran in coaching, my why drastically changed. And it became so that coaching was my everyday walking ministry, trying to be relational with the kids, like Coach Sanders said, trying to pour into them, trying to share the gospel with them in any ways that I could, and trying to be a difference maker in their lives. And you see that, and recently I was at the Geneseo High School FCA Fields of Faith, and you see 130 something kids there. And you see that because there's a lot of people pouring into those kids. And that's the effect that positive huddle leaders, positive coaches, they're able to pour into those guys, and they want more. We see a hungry group now, a hungry group of teenagers that want to know more. And so, like, I know that for me, my why changed, but I think the importance of the coach's why is probably more insignificant now than maybe even ever before.
Yeah, and I agree. And I don't know how much that I ever um, was able to push the winning, the losing, the competition down necessarily. But I think, and again, through the coaches huddle, looking at the why, and when we did way back to 3-dimensional coaching, when we did that, we've done Tony Dungy's book and different things that I think as it went on, or I wish I would have brought that part of the why, the relational, up. Um, so I don't know that I changed my competitive nature,
Well,
decreased at all, but I think that I was just more aware of the more of the impact off the
yeah,
court, I
no,
think.
I think you're right. Like, it doesn't take away the competitiveness. But have you heard that quote that winning isn't everything; it's the only thing? And they're right, but sometimes that your perspective on what is a win changes. And
Yes.
it's not just the scoreboard. And the scoreboard is important, and obviously that's a goal. Like, you're all trying to strive to achieve that goal together. But now your wins come from, like, sometimes it's from seeing a kid graduate. Sometimes it's from seeing, you see kids 15, 20, coach said 50 years down the road, and they've been fathers, they've been productive members of society, they've been, you see a lot of kids that have been poured into spiritually, and they're living and walking a life that Christ wants them to walk. And when you see those people out doing the things and discipling and doing the things that God has called us to do, man, it's such a difference maker in society. And those wins mean more than any other win I've ever had in my career.
Yeah, and I think that, as Dan brought up in the first episode, the impact of coaches. And that's why FCA, as much as people see the huddles, the fields of faith that we've had going on in the area or across the country actually recently, um, with the athletes, that really the focus is the coaches, the coaches who are impacting the athletes and setting the examples. And so, I know that the coaches huddle is a theme this morning with having Jim on, but also our coaches appreciation dinner that we want to show appreciation, have coaches as our guests out at TPC Deer Run on November 16th. Just RSVP for coaches and spouses, and to reach out to them, support them, and try to work through the coaches and the impacts, and let them know the impacts they have on students. Because I think that you bring up a point too, is how many times, even, well, I shouldn't speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. Um, Try to have positive impacts, and I like to think that there's been some of that, but we always have an impact. And I think there's been some times where maybe I've had a negative impact. And when you realize that, it hits home a little bit.
Yeah. And the other thing that's hard within, working with youth, you don't always get to see the fruit of your labors, and that's hard because we live in a society you want to see instant impact, like, and sometimes that impact might not be for years. And I remember a story, a student I coached football in. It's been a ways back, 15 years ago now, and he was a troublemaker in school. He was kind of borderline, like, whether he was always going to be on the team or not, and ended up having a really good senior year. Like, got kind of stuff together, had a good senior year, went off to the military. And I remember, like, 3 or 4 years after he graduated, I got an email from him, just randomly. I hadn't seen him since the day he graduated, and it was an email just thanking me for the impact in his life. And I would have never expected that from that student. Just, but, like, sometimes, like, as you try to pour into kids, and as you try to sow seed in their lives, like, you just don't know. Like, you never know what kind of impact you might be making in the life of our students. So take advantage of all those opportunities you have, and let that light of Christ shine through you and through your coaching.
Exactly. And I think that we all have those experiences that makes it worth it and makes you understand. But like I said, when you're younger, you don't have the opportunity to get those because you're 28 or whatever, and you're only 10 years older than those kids
Yeah.
you're coaching. So as you get older, you get those experiences. And so
Yeah, for sure. So
excited to have episode 2 in the books. We can continue to work through some tech issues, which most of you don't realize that we're getting through, and when we get feedback and when we don't, as far as having to wear the headphones. So we're working through those, but we appreciate our guests and those of you that are listening. Anything else, Andrew, as far as FCA that you wanted to share?
no, just I know that God's doing a lot of great work. So appreciative of all of our coaches, and just praying for an amazing week here.
Yep. Okay. Well, I guess we'll break the huddle then, right? And hope all of you have a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. If you have ideas for content or interview suggestions, just reach out to Tom or Andrew. Thanks again for checking out Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA.